First things first, I'm the best. You guys know this. I know this. Last week in BattleWorld Difficulty 3, I put up a staggering 389 million damage. Nearly killing my own version of Knull. Nearly took him out myself, which is great. I'm the best. You guys know this. And so I need to share with you the absolute monstrous teams I used against Knull. And then you can go ahead, you can emulate this, and everyone can have so much fun, right? So the first team I use is, of course, the Bleeder Boys. All right, so this is going to be Black Knight taking away Barrier, Old Man Logan putting bleeds, Mephisto putting bleeds, and Adam Warlock, of all people, with Omega Red, of all people, extending those bleeds, leading to a staggering, amazing 275 million damage. I've seen this team do up to 300 million, so you know what? I kind of slacked. I didn't do too many attempts. Still a good hit, though. Still a good hit, though, right? That'll lead us into my next team that I'm calling the Barrier Breaker Boys. We got Gladiator breaking Barrier on his special, Nightcrawler giving me speed up, giving Knull slow, doing a bunch of crits, getting some vulnerables out there. We got Thanos putting out bleeds on his basic, super powerful. Then we have Apocalypse breaks Barrier on his ultimate, also putting bleeds on his basic. And of course, we got Red Hulk breaking the barrier walls with his special. And then when you get his battlefield effect out, doing damage based on Knull's hit, which absolutely demolishes the enemy, okay? And then, finally, the team Scopely has sold us for BattleWorld, the scammers. Okay, here we go, guys. The scammers. The whole point of this video is going to be talking about what I think are the faults in Knull, but I don't want to do it in a whiny way. I want to do it in a constructive way so that maybe we can come up with a bunch of ideas together. And Scopely, I don't think they're going to change anything this time around, but hopefully they can take some of what we talk about here for the next BattleWorld boss. The scammers. I know this isn't the full team. I know I have Emma unlocked. I didn't use Emma. You know why? Because I got worse results with Emma. In fact, what you see above is not even the results I got. I actually only got 42 million. My team instantly died. I didn't get to quit out in time. I only scored 42 million, right? That's fine. It is what it is. I still put up a good score. Still number one in Onslaught. I'm the best. I'm the best. You guys know this. I know this. Everybody knows this. But why does the actual team fail so much? And let's be real. I also have Odin in here, okay? Odin is kind of a special character. Don't know if you guys know this. He's sort of the newest Dark Dimension character, I think. I think people spent a couple $1,000s to get him really early, and he's not really doing that good against Knull. And I got a couple thoughts about why that is. Before we do that, though, I want to talk about the Astral problem. Why does the Astral team not doing nearly as good as we probably should be allowed to expect them to do, if I'm being honest with you? But I also, okay. Difficulty 3 is going to be different than Difficulty 5. It's going to be different than Difficulty 1. It's going to be different than Difficulty 2, right? Because of the damage cap. The damage cap negates max % damage far too much, especially on the lower difficulties. So, like, the difficulty we just did, the max damage, Difficulty 3, the max damage was 1 million. Strange hits for percentile damage on both his special and basic. Moondragon has percentile damage on both her special and her basic. Both of those by far break the damage cap, right? But because they're capped, nothing happens. They like those supposedly meaningful damage abilities don't feel very meaningful. Especially when 1 million is such a small number. I had like Ares with his basic would hit for 1 million. He would break the damage cap, right? So why would Ares, who's like, admittedly, like, he's just there to break barrier on his special, why is he doing as much damage as the Astral characters? Well, it's because of this max barrier, or sorry, the damage cap, just being absolutely ridiculous. This damage cap also makes counterattacks completely meaningless on the Astral team. So one of the big things in the Ancient One's kit is that she gives counterattacks to her team. Again, the counterattacks from Moondragon and Doctor Strange do max percentile life, but Knull hits multiple people, right? So when Knull hits the entire team and everyone goes in to rush for counterattacks, Doctor Strange counterattacks, he does the 1 million damage cap, and then that's it. Every other counterattack does nothing, except I guess if it did like a slow or some sort of effect. Otherwise, meaningless. Zilch, not it, it's garbage. It does nothing. Garbage. The Astral team has no barrier mechanic. There's no The reason I bench Emma Frost, who is the goddamn barrier queen on the team, everything she does is granting crazy amounts of barrier to her team. She doesn't have any sort of enemy barrier manipulation? Why? Wait, why? Why? That's why everyone is saying Emma's garbage bencher. If Emma came in with any sort of barrier, like, honestly, Emma's basic should take barrier off. And then we would, oh, Emma's the striker of the team. Got it, go, good. Is that going to break the game? I don't think so. As we're going to talk about when we get to the other points of interest in this video. And then this team is missing bleeds. Now, Shadow King has a couple of bleeds. We're going to talk about bleeds. Because what the hell is going on with bleeds? You saw the Bleeder team. Bleeder team is awesome. Bleeder team is super fun. I really enjoyed the Bleeder team. This was really fun to come up with. Whoever came up with the extended and seeing how that affects things, good on you. That was a really good find. But the team is missing bleeds. Is that an intended part of Knull's fights? I don't know. Let's go talk about what is intended about the Knull fights, though. Knull's kit. How do we combat it? What is happening? Why are things happening the way they're happening? It's all great questions. Why do certain teams we feel should be amazing absolutely suck, and certain characters that do suck everywhere else are absolutely amazing? Well, a lot of it comes down to what I think the giant problem number one you got to solve when facing off Knull and that against Knull, and that's going to be the damage cap. But this is not something that I think should be in the game anymore. I don't think they should ever revisit this for future BattleWorld bosses because entire interactions are getting capped, and that makes no sense. It absolutely ruins the fun. It ruins certain mechanics of teams that we want to come in there with. It really limits us in a way that I think is unhealthy for the gameplay and for theory crafting. For instance, why have counters? We just talked about the Ancient One. The Ancient One would be a really interesting plug-and-play character on any team because she could put counters on everybody. And if Knull does his AoE ult, it hits everybody. They all come in with counters. They beat them all up together. That's great, except the damage would be capped. And if any one of those characters has a max health percentage, cap hit, rest of the characters' counters, and all of their attacks wasted. Is that a good thing? The damage cap is necessary for a certain interaction, which we're going to talk about. But should it really stop everything? Why would I have strikers? Why do I want my Apocalypse to be a striker, which he normally is, if when he does his ultimate, he's going to hit the damage cap anyway, so when he does his striker follow-up, it's going to do nothing. The only striker that I would actually want to have in that situation is now Kang. Because I guess Kang would hit into the vulnerable and he'd get more speed bar. Okay. But everybody else? Maybe a character like Black Cat, right? When she hits, she'll do a slow. Or maybe a character like Omega Red. When he hits, he'll prolong bleeds. And then he'll hit again and prolong bleeds. We're going to talk about that, right? Why have hard-hitting characters? Why would I want to come in here with, I don't know, like Skrull Annihilators, right? Extra villains. Skrull's ult hits for like 1 billion trillion percentile damage. Not percentile damage. 1 billion trillion piercing damage or whatever the hell it is. Why would I want to set Skrull up for a big, cool, fun, gratifying hit when it's going to be capped at 1 million or even 4 million, right? Why do I want to get offense up on my Skrull, defense down on Knull, and then pop him really hard with an ultimate ult that's going to eat all his buffs and why would I do that if it's going to be capped at 1 million damage on difficulty 3? The solution to this is very simple. And this is just a failure in probably the ability of the game's structure. The developers need to make the cap only affect max health percent damage, right? It needs to be that when Braun does his ultimate that does 40% max life, it doesn't take 40% of Mephisto's life, but it does, 4 million on difficulty 5. Why not? Who cares? No one's going to use Braun for that one-time hit, right? That needs to happen while at the same time, Kang isn't limited on difficulty 3 when he basics and he does 1 million damage, and then the next attack does 1 million damage, and the striker attack does 1 million damage, but only 1 million is actually counted because the damage cap destroys it. We need to be able to expect that in our game, that there doesn't need to be a blanket theory crafting killer structure to deal with a few abilities on a few characters. Right? Like, or somebody else brought this up. Divide what the max % health thing that they do by 10 and increase Knull's life exponentially. That would be another way to combat it. So instead of doing, 60% of Knull's life on Apocalypse's Empowered Punch, he would do 6%. It's still really impactful. Really impactful. Probably only gets it off once in the match for other reasons we're going to talk about. And then everyone else can still do all their damage, right? Why not have that? Or put a cap just on max health % damage. I feel like that's not a hard ask. And then the other character in the game that would be kind of problematic, I guess, would be Deathpool. Her ultimate does like 20,000% damage. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't think Deathpool is actually going to reach that more than once. I don't think it's actually going to kill Knull in any way, shape, or form. Like, we're not going to be able to build her up that high. So that's your solution. Do a better job at fixing the holes without smothering theory crafting. Damage cap, issue number 1. Issue number 2, bleeds. Now hold on, because I know a lot of you just screamed and spit out your coffee and you're cursing me out. Bleeds are not working as intended. How is the damage of bleeds being calculated? Because I promise you, the damage of my Old Man Logan and my Mephisto bleeds getting out there was that, like, let's say it's 6 bleeds total, okay? The damage of that is not the 30 million damage Knull was taking every single time he took a turn. He had that much bleeds. When Omega Red and Adam Warlock come in and extend those bleeds, how is that being calculated? When Omega Red extends the bleeds, he's not adding additional bleeds. He's adding a turn that the Old Man Logan bleeds are on Knull for, right? So, for example, Old Man Logan puts out, let's just say 4 bleeds on Knull. Omega Red comes in. He's a striker. He extends it 2 times. So now, Knull has 4 bleeds for 3 turns. Why does the damage Knull takes from Old Man Logan's 4 bleeds in 1 turn, absent Omega Red, not equal the amount of damage Knull takes for 4 bleeds from Old Man Logan extended for 3 more turns from Omega Red? Why is that different? Bleeds circumvent the damage cap. We just know that. They're not affected by a barrier. Something else we're going to talk about here. We just know that, okay? What the hell is going on with bleeds that's making it act this way? And what's the solution? Leave it the hell alone. Because I know somebody internally is going and talking like, why are these characters making our Astral team look like trash that no one's going to want to buy? They're just going to get them free to play and they'll do the raid nodes from BattleWorld. Like, what? Should we fix it? Don't fix that. No, that is... Once we go through the rest of the slides, you will quickly realize that bleeds interacting the way they are is the only reason everybody isn't shitting on the Knull experience right now and why people actually enjoy the Knull experience. Leave it alone, but explain it. Go back to Knull's kit in that blog. Explain what's going on with bleeds. Are bleeds doing a maximum health hit on Knull? I think that's actually more likely the case. I think probably the bleeds are doing some sort of max HP damage to Knull. They're being circumvented on the damage cap because it's not happening on our turn. It's happening on Knull's turn. So there's some sort of interaction there. And they're completely ignoring the barrier, which is really cool. Leave it alone, but explain it so people know what's going on. Very important, okay? Let's now get to the points of contention that I think are making bleeds the only reason why this boss was even somewhat enjoyable. Speed is so goddamn stupid on Knull, okay? 20% speed bar on any one of our turns is so dumb. It makes minions completely useless, okay? I would love to use Orcus. I would love to use Undying. Hell, I would love to use Mysterio or Nick Fury. I would love to play around with all these characters, but anytime they take 1 turn, Knull gets 20% speed bar, which, let's be real, you could put slow on Knull, but because he gets 20% speed bar per turn, your value you get from slow is non-existent after a certain point, and that point comes fast and hard. 20% speed bar on ally turn is absolutely ridiculous. If it was 5% or maybe 10% on non-summoned enemy turn, that would make a little bit more sense. 20%, even minions notwithstanding, is a ridiculous number. It's stupid, and it as we're going to see compounded with everything else that he does, it limits us way more than it has any right to do. All right. Anti-speed bar control is unnecessary. Any team that would be able to fully control Knull, never letting him take a turn, is going to time it and do like no damage. What would that team even be? It would be a team that needs speed up at all times. It would have to be a team with low cooldown abilities that do rewinds. I mean, like maybe like a Red Hulk and a Hawkeye and 2 Eternals with Jessica Jones, whatever the case may be. I'm sure we'd be able to figure it out. We'd put slow on Knull. We would rewind him indefinitely, okay? Such a team doesn't exist with the new characters right now, and they would still be limited by the timeouts. But here's the thing. If you wanted to try and make that not possible anyway, add something different, something that makes more sense to Knull's kit. Instead of having darkness instantly make someone do a mind control attack, maybe darkness happens whenever one of our characters takes a turn, and when we get to 10 stacks, we start doing mind control. And when we get to 20 stacks, we start doing mind control for times 2 the amount of damage. Like, this is something that I thought of just on the spot. This is not something that should have kind of skipped the testing phase, in my opinion. Like, there's no reason to have speed bar control being completely negated against Knull. It removes clever character usage to line up barrier cleanse. We're going to talk about barrier cleanse. But imagine a world where I could let Knull take a turn, and then he gets his barrier up. He does it on his special, right? He gets his barrier up. I rewind him. I get him with a slow, and then I have Ares chomp off his barrier. And now I get to actually attack him while he can take damage from characters that are not named, you know, the bleeder boys, right? The characters that do bleeds that don't care about the barrier. Because we're going to talk about barrier. Barrier is stupid on this fight, okay? And just as a throwaway, the speed stat reduction restriction felt so unnecessary. Like, Emma, old school Emma stops 10. Why do you care if I take off 12.7 speed stat from Knull when the rage mechanic, he's going to get an additional 1% speed or something like that, or 10% speed stat every single time he gets a rage? By the time he's done his first 2 abilities, he's at 5, so he's already getting 50% speed. Like, and he gets speed bar. It's just, I don't understand why block Emma. Let people use Emma on the boss, because honestly, people would quickly find out it's not worth it anyway. Now, if you have a future character coming to the game that's going to reduce speed stat by like 50% or 100%, could I just stop you there and ask you not to do it, please? Because that doesn't sound very cool. I don't need the anti-alpha flight where instead of getting 35% speed stat, they tax 35%. We don't need that. We can come up with more interesting, fun things to do besides that. I think you guys can do it. If not, hire me. I'll do it for you. Look, I'm gonna talk about a bunch of stuff here that I think would be really great. But all 3 of these things combined, no speed stat reduction, anti-speed bar control, speed bar on ally turn, which generally just makes slows useless. All 3 of these combined with the barrier is super dumb. All right? The barrier mechanic forces a plateau in the gameplay in the blink of an eye. The energy generation, if you know the energy generation, when Knull gets 10 rages, on his turn, he generates 1 ability energy for himself. He quickly reaches 20 rages. If you put in a really strong, beefy team, he will quickly reach 20 rage, and then all of a sudden, he's getting 20% speed bar on your turn. You can't rewind him. He's got now, 200% or 200% extra speed stat from the rages, plus he gets energy. All of a sudden, Knull is just spamming special, ultimate, special, ultimate, special, ultimate. And then you just aren't doing anything. I found like I tried to play around with like Annihilators for fun and not the barrier breaking team that I talked about a little bit earlier. And I could survive quite a while. I got to the point where his barrier was infinite and I could never break it. Why could I never break it? Well, because the damage cap, I literally could, like he only, on that difficulty, I believe he only had about 4 million barrier. But because the damage cap was 1 million, I literally couldn't break it before he just reapplied it. And so that spamming plateaus the gameplay, and then you're just done. You're just not able to hurt him unless you're doing bleeds. I mean, which is why I use people like Endgame Thanos and Red Hulk Ultimate and Apocalypse Basic, and that's why we only were able to do bleeds. Okay, fine. The only character that made this somewhat tenable, which is why he was on everyone's main team, is Black Knight, right? Because Black Knight would let Knull take a turn and he would instantly break the barrier. Instantly. And you had to play around with when you use Black Knight Special to get those additional 3 charges. And that's great. You know what would be even more fun, though? If I could play around with it in such a way that I could rewind Knull to the point where my Black Knight gets a charge right before Knull puts his barrier. Like, that would kind of be a little bit more interesting on the theory crafting stage of things, right? That'd be really cool. You know what else we can't do to Knull that I think is just absolutely ridiculous? We can't put any sort of debuffs on this character. Why? Like, any sort of meaningful debuffs, I should say. Let me pull this page up real quick. Let me go find this page. All right, so here we are at Knull's kit, and I just think this is absolutely ridiculous. This character is immune to the following list of negative effects: ability block, exhaust, expose, and stun. 2 of these things are fine. Being immune to exhaust and stun, I think, is 100% perfectly fine. You know, I don't want Knull to lose 20% stats out the gate because of Mephisto. I don't want him to be able to be stunned. Who cares? Like, that makes it. We have lots of characters in the game, looking at Apocalypse, looking at Skrull, who can't be stunned. That's perfectly fine. Why can't we have him be exposed? I'll tell you why. It's because Mephisto, right? It's because Mephisto would stop this line right here on enemy turn, this character speed bar by 20%. So they don't want Mephisto to stop this because, as we talked about, it ruins the fight. So they like it that it ruins the fight, in my opinion. I'm getting a little salty. Sorry, this is supposed to be constructive. Let's relax a bit. I think they need to, instead of, again, kind of throwing this like blanket nerf on our ability to theory craft, they need to plug that hole in a much more, precise way. Okay, go into this Knull's kit, give him a tag called BattleWorld Boss. Go into Mephisto's kit, go into his exposed feature, and then put in his exposed feature, this effect does not apply to BattleWorld bosses. That way we could have a character like Skrull be another barrier breaker for us, right? Skrull would be a fantastic barrier breaker because he would be able to, if he has exposed, break the barrier. He would not be nearly as good as Black Knight. He would be the second best barrier breaker. But we would then be able to make a team, which would be fun, instead of the one bleed team, and then a second subpar bleed team. Right? Like, it would be way more fun. And then there's the ability block feature. This character is immune to ability blocks. I would love it if I had a team built around the idea of, okay, I'm going to get a quick ability block on Knull, and so he doesn't do his barrier till his next turn, and then I have my barrier break ready. That's fun. That's a good way to theory craft. I understand why they don't have that, but I think that's also just a flaw in the overall design of the Rage and the Darkness mechanics, in my opinion. The reason they don't want this is because we have ways to extend ability block, right? So we would find a way to extend ability block indefinitely, and so why would that be a problem? Well, if we can extend ability block indefinitely, then he's never going to get any Rage, right? Because he only summons on his special and on his ultimate, and that's how he gets Rage, when they take a turn or when they die. So if we extend ability block indefinitely, he never gets to do that. There should be honestly, I think Darkness should work completely different. I think Darkness should just be applied to us, not from his attacks, but for every turn that our team takes. And once our team has taken, I don't know, 5 or 10 turns, we start getting mind controlled. And then when we hit the next factor of 5, we start doing extra damage on that mind control. And I also think that we should not be limited by not using minions, because then they could eat some of that mind control. And then the theory crafting, the gears go crazy, and we start having fun, which would be crazy. But when you start making them blanket fixes to things like exposed, to things like ability block, to things like speed bar, you really start to limit any sort of fun factor that we can have when facing Knull. Got a little preachy, okay? My point is, there's a lot of these issues, and the blanket solutions that were thrown on there, I think were just way too heavy-handed. And I really hope we don't see that in any future BattleWorld bosses. I'm very curious to know what your guys' thoughts are on everything I've said in this video thus far. But I don't think we're done yet, because I do think that the BattleWorld mode itself has a huge issue, and that is game time. There's a huge time investment in what is honestly autoplay content for most veteran players. 5 days of like 30 minutes of autoplay content. There's no sim button. And honestly, I don't care that there's no sim button. I do wish there was some sort of you know, playing reward structure where if I beat a node 10 times, I kill all 6 waves, then I can start simming it. I think that's obviously not in their code, but I think it's something they should invest in getting in there for sure. The fact that Knull can be resettable, like when this was rolled out to us, and I think it was rolled out in the Strike Spot videos too, we were not supposed to be able to back out of fights. If you backed out of a fight, it was supposed to eat up one of your temps. In fact, it did in the playtest. So the fact that we can back out of the Knull fight and just keep resetting till we get some sort of good RNG, a certain group of players is really gonna like that. I'm the kind of player that would really like that. But the problem with that becomes now you have like a social obligation to your alliance to do that until your fucking eyes bleed and you get a really good score on Knull, because we got to compete for those leaderboards, right? We need those goddamn Emma diamonds that will fill out within the next 6 to 8 months. The reset feature, I actually have a huge issue with that. I don't want to touch on it too much because I know it's going to be contentious, but it's adding a lot of game time. Spec Ops organization. So we've now had 2 weeks. A lot of Alliance have now seen shifts in Alliance members. And so I would love to hear your input, Alliance leaders. How are you enjoying having to go in and retune your Spec Ops? Especially if you're not using that live pool tool. If you're using the live pool tool, it's great. He keeps adding new features to it every goddamn week, right? But if not, or if you're not an Alliance where everybody can kind of cover everything, holy jeez. Holy jeez. And then you got to send new pictures out. Like, sometimes, player B coming in to replace player A can't do the same Spec Ops, and you got to start shifting everybody around, right? There's a solution here that I don't think they want to hear. They got to remove 2 more zones. When we did the first playtest, we talked like, hey, this is kind of arduous. They removed a whole zone. Do it again, man. Remove another zone. Remove 2 more zones. Have there be 3 days of gameplay, of node play, I should say, 1 day of boss battle. Honestly, if you took away all 5 days and you just had the boss battle, I think people would actually really celebrate that even more. But I know you guys need to sell the Astral team on the nodes because they're trash against the boss. So, take 2 of the zones out. I don't need to use mercenaries on 2 different nodes across the 5 days, right? I don't need an Undying or an Out of Time or an Illuminati based node. Like, this is just, I don't need that. I don't think any players need that. I know it's like helping people build up it's helping you guide players to build up some of these best teams, which I think is kind of cool, but it's also going to equate to all of us having very similar rosters, which is something, we visited with Apocalypse Saga and nobody was super happy about. So get rid of that, right? And oh my god, Spec Ops needs so much more work. I'm so hopeful that this is just a limitation on changes they can make before a patch goes live. Spec Ops, okay. What I think would make Spec Ops 100% not fixed, let's say 100 times better. Let's say it that way instead. Like War Defense, players need to be able to go into zones ahead of time and set their Spec Ops before the zone ever goes live. Also, like War, this needs to save over from week to week. Players absolutely hate having to go to their Discord channel every single day to find their assignment to then go and put it in every single day. It needs to be exactly like War Defense. You set it once, nobody can set the spot that no one could come in and take my security spot. No one should be able to come in and take my 1 diamond Thanos spot, or whatever the case may be. Do it ahead of time, and there'll be no issue. No one will complain about Spec Ops anymore, except people who have to organize it the one time every single time somebody switches alliances, right? I don't know how you fix that, but you can fix 90% of the other issues just by letting us do it ahead of time. And I feel like BattleWorld is so close. I feel like Knull is so close to just being this spectacular, fun thing that we get to do in-game every week. It's so close. But with the mind-numbing buffs to the gameplay nodes, to Astral simply being a raid team for that 1 node, to Spec Ops being this absolutely organizational nightmare, this tedious task that not only captains have to deal with, but players have to deal with, and then Knull having this smothering speed, barrier issue, in my opinion, I guess. It's just my opinion, I suppose. I feel like BattleWorld is so close to being great, but it's not. And I really hope Scopely can get BattleWorld 2 to kind of address some of these issues, right? And I don't want to say it's going to be the case. I really hope Astral does perform the best on difficulty 5, because people bought Astral thinking it was going to be the best team, right? They sold it as a team you're going to need for Battle. I don't think they ever actually said the word Knull there. I don't think they ever said Astral is going to be the best Knull killing team. That might have been inferred. If it was said somewhere, please give me the link to that and we can start throwing that around. Because right now, it's definitely not. Up to difficulty 3, Astral's kind of trash. All right? And maybe Shadow King makes it a lot better. Emma certainly doesn't, right? Emma needs... Please fix Emma. Emma needs some sort of barrier clear. Whether you put it on her special or on her basic, all right? So Emma needs some sort of clear to make people want to use her, right? I digress. Ranted too much. Rant over. Let me know what you guys think about the issues I brought up here. Am I crazy? Am I off my rocker? How happy are you that the bleed thing was actually a possibility we got to lean into? What is your experience with Astral? You guys enjoy it? Somebody sent me a picture of their Astral with Black Knight putting up 300 million. I was flabbergasted. Now, I didn't get to see any gameplay. I believe the person. But everyone else who tried Astral, they were capping out at like 120 million with Black Knight. Right? So maybe it's just really good RNG. Not sure. Damage cap seems to be an issue for me. But yeah, let me know about all the issues I brought up here, about Knull, about BattleWorld, about how you guys feel. What's your interaction so far with BattleWorld, with Spec Ops, with the boss, everything. Let me know in the comment section below. We'll have a great conversation. But for now, stay happy, stay healthy, have fun. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. This video went way too long, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now. That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.